So you probably noticed by now that, there we go. Sorry about that. You probably noticed my headphone display. Actually, I got a new toy. It's called a microphone, but not just any microphone. This thing, I believe, is called a condenser, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, but apparently you put a set of headphones in it, and then it increases the audio on it. So it enhances the audio of the person speaking when they're going live on video. So that's a good tool to have. Anyways, my name's Michael J. Long. It's 3:37 p.m. on which is on Monday, September 21st, 2020. And thank you for joining me. Appreciate it. All right. So first thing I want to do is I found this article by Reason Magazine, and I probably should um, present it as is because this is what I wanted to speak out about, not against Reason, but against the Trump administration's ban on TikTok. And not just TikTok, but WeChat too. And this article, I just wanted to read the article real quick before giving my opinion on it. The article was written on Reason Magazine by Scott Shackford on the 18th, September 18th, so that was on a Friday, I believe, at around 1 p.m. So this was before the prohibition, quote unquote, on TikTok went into effect because it was supposedly supposed to go into effect yesterday, which was the 20th on Sunday. So that goes to show you the kind of rationale that the Trump administration has with regards to free speech, which, by the way, most conservatives say they're in favor of. Yeah, right. Not if it's a Chinese company that has an app stored or invested in the U.S. marketplace like Google Play or Apple Play. So now apparently they can't have that on their app store, which I think is a bunch of bull. And I don't even think it has any merit. But anyways, and so the subtitle is absolutely correct. There's nothing good about censoring communication platforms citizens want to use. Well, ain't that the truth? The U.S. the article goes on to say that the U.S. Department of Commerce today announced that it will, as threatened, implement a ban on TikTok and WeChat apps, thus censoring tools Americans use to communicate with each other, while blaming it all on China's communist rule. So let me read that again. The U.S. Department of Commerce today announced that it will, as threatened, implement a ban on the TikTok and WeChat apps, thus censoring tools Americans use to communicate each other, while blaming it all on China's communist rule. As of Sunday, online mobile or app stores will not be able to distribute or update either WeChat or TikTok. WeChat will further be banned from processing payments within the United States. This enacts President Donald Trump's August executive orders in which he claimed that the two apps threaten the United States due to their parent company's ties to the communist Chinese government. At the president's discretion, we have taken significant action to combat China's malicious collection of American citizens. As this was a quote by the apparent Commerce Department, personal data while promoting our national values, democratic-based, rules-based norms, and aggressive enforcement of U.S. laws and regulations. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. In a press statement, which he said in a press release today, which was Friday. Restricting with communication tools Americans can use, in fact, undermines the American values and our rules-based norms, he says. It is more akin to how countries like China attempt to control our citizens can communicate. The Commerce Department decisions the Commerce Department's decision to bar transactions with TikTok and WeChat raises serious First Amendment concerns and should be scrutinized carefully by the courts, wrote Jamar Jaffe, executive director of the Knight First Amendment Institute, following today's orders. The Supreme Court held 50 years ago that the First Amendment protects Americans' right to access foreign media. This protection is no less important today. The privacy and security concerns with platforms like TikTok and WeChat are real, but we should be wary of setting a precedent that would give this president and every future one broad power to intervene with Americans' access to information and ideas from abroad. The administration is being sued by both TikTok and at least one employee who works over the broadness of Trump's orders, arguing that this move violates their due process protections and fails to identify an actual threat. One of the suits notes that TikTok is neither owned, operated, or controlled by China or the Chinese government. Indeed, TikTok does not even operate in China. Attempts to try to force the sale of TikTok to an American company such as Oracle have stalled with Trump complaining that the U.S. government wouldn't cut out the sale. Today's order will not stop Americans who have already downloaded the app from using them, but it will make it harder for others from downloading them. The biggest winners of this order are neither the American public nor the Trump administration, but the companies that provide virtual private networks, aka VPNs, which can be used to bypass government mandate bans and firewalls. TechCrunch notes that whenever a country attempts to ban TikTok, VPN companies see a surge in customers looking for a way to bypass the rule. Yeah, the rules. Duh, I mean. Okay, so this was a pretty short article. But basically, where I'm getting at here is this. And this should be put in every single question that everyone should be asking is this. Right, Trump banned this app here in the U.S. It's already been prohibited by his executive orders. But does the president have the authority under the U.S. Constitution to actually implement or to create any type of executive orders? Moreover, does the president have the authority to legislate his position without going through Congress? Well, if you read the Constitution very carefully, it's worth noting that the Constitution actually has put forth the power to legislate in Congress, in the hands of Congress. So if you're going to get any type of law that is legal and set in stone in merit with the U.S. Constitution, it comes through Congress. At that point, after it passes both chambers, the House and the Senate, the president can choose to veto it, in which case he sends it back to Congress for further reconsideration on how to or whatever, but it doesn't become law. At which point they could vote to override him, but they would need 2/3 majority and 1/3 minority of the votes in the House and the Senate to actually override the president and making it law. Or they can adjust it for the president to sign into law if he so chooses. So the president has the power to sign legislation into law. But what he doesn't have the power to do is create law. That power derives in Congress. And why a single Republican has not stepped forward to criticize Trump on this move is beyond me. And the company TikTok itself is saying, look, we're not even affiliated. We're not even based out of China. I don't even know if that's true. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. But in any given case, what gives the president the right to ban a foreign product in the U.S. market system for American consumers? Why don't we just let American consumers make that decision for themselves in terms of whether they even want TikTok installed on their phone or not, or whether they want to use it or not? I personally never was interested in TikTok until probably recently, but even still, there's a lot, like 90% of the garbage that goes through your feed. It's just random. It's just a lot of it's stupid, in my personal opinion. But who am I to tell someone else what's enjoyable to them, or what they should or shouldn't do, or what they should and shouldn't use? You know. Now, this is the thing. TikTok has a right to exist in the United States without having to be forcefully owned by a U.S. company upon the president's discretion. It can exist anywhere in the world, but I guess one of the things that article was pointing out, too, was that there was already a ruling in the Supreme Court that says that the American people have rights to any type of information they see or intake from abroad. Thus, foreign media and information. But what do? We sit there and say, we can't have TikTok here in the United States because the communist Chinese government might be watching everybody in the United States, and we're going to do this to protect the American people, right? That's their excuse for banning it. But what about the CIA and the NSA and the FBI and every other single federal government agency just monitoring every single phone call every single American makes, whether it's private or not, monitoring all the phone calls and, cell phone calls and text messages, and monitoring everyone's Facebook messages. And then, Facebook's got the nerve to try to send that information over to the government, whatever information they collect. But the government should really have nothing to do with all this. Now, if Facebook wants a certain audience and they don't want more conservative audiences, they have the right to kick them off their platform. Even if they have the right to make whatever speech rules they want. Facebook is a private company. The First Amendment does not apply to the free market. What it applies where free speech only applies to government. The Constitution was not put in place to restrain the free market and their ability to restrict free speech, but rather it was put in place to restrict the government from restricting your freedom of speech and your civil liberties and your rights to the free market. All right? So for the government to sit there and tell everyone what they can and can't do in the free market, and what the free market can and can't do, what consumers can and can't do, what everybody else can and can't do, for government to do this on any level. I don't care if it's Greg Abbott's over there and down there in Texas. I don't care if it's our beloved Governor Andrew Cuomo here in New York. And I sure as hell don't care if it's President Donald Trump. None of them have the authority under the U.S. Constitution to restrict your right to free speech. your right to the free market and the free market's right to decide who they want to associate with. All right. So a big thing about being libertarian, you know, is that there should be no interference whatsoever in the affairs of the free market or the affairs of free trade. And if anything, government's sole purpose should be, if any, to protect free trade, not to damage or destroy it. But yet that's what we see. And this prohibition with TikTok and WeChat, that's no more different. You know? And so that's on the legal, in the legal sense, and I can see why TikTok is suing the Trump administration in court, and I hope they take it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and I hope the Supreme Court then decides, hey, this is unconstitutional. And my fear is that the conservatives that Trump appointed to the Supreme Court are going to try to side with Trump, and I'm hoping they don't do that in this particular case. And if that article holds correct, that 50 years ago, there was a ruling in the Supreme Court that says people's rights to foreign media should not be banned or restricted. There's already been a precedent set by the Supreme Court 50 years ago, and if that's the case, I would hope that the conservatives honor that precedent. Or else we're better off saying, you know what? Let's just ban Roe versus Wade. Because if you're not going to stick with the precedent of matters that were already solved by the Supreme Court, you might as well just every ruling that was ever made in the Supreme Court overturned. And I'm sure that's been done before in some matters. I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do if it goes up to the Supreme Court at that level. But I'll tell you this much. President Trump has no authority in the legal sense to have banned it. Therefore, what he did is unconstitutional. Right. Now, the Supreme Court, ideally, is supposed to serve for opinions and not say, this law's been struck down, this law's upheld. So, but that's what they do anyways. But if we're going to play that game, then it would be my hope to hope that the Supreme Court strikes down this ban. Because first of all, it didn't even go through the House and the Senate. This was just an executive order that Trump put in place to restrict other people's free speech. And it didn't even go through the House. It didn't even go through the Senate. It's just Trump being king. Trump being a tyrant. But golly, Michael, if this was, it's like, geez, if this was Obama doing the same thing, the conservatives would be screaming bloody murder for the same thing that Trump's doing. Now, I'm not giving any praise to the past administration, the Obama administration. But this is something to think about going forward. That there's no reason on the face of the earth whatsoever for a president to constrict everyone's free speech and civil liberties and rights to be heard on whatever platforms they choose. Especially if the president's going to be okay with Minds.com and Gab and all these alternative platforms, he should be just as okay with not regulating Facebook, not regulating Twitter, and not banning TikTok and WeChat and allowing all these platforms to compete with each other, thus allowing the consumers, us, to make our own decisions on what apps we want to support or don't support. So it's none of the president's business, if I use TikTok or WeChat or if I want to make a transaction on one of those apps, none of his damn business. He doesn't even have the authority under the U.S. Constitution to do it. He does it anyways. So what do you think that means about the U.S. Constitution with regards to Trump? It means Trump doesn't care about the U.S. Constitution. And you know what? He doesn't even care about anybody but himself and the people he serves. Let's be honest. For the average person that did not vote for Trump, you're not going to get serviced by him with free speech. You're lucky you get $1,200 from him in a stimulus package, or $300 a week, or $600 a week. And where does that money come from? It comes from the Federal Reserve, who just prints money out of thin air. So that should tell you everything you need to know. That he puts on this app that he cares about you. He cares about everybody in this country, right? He cares about his beloved American people. But God forbid if the American people want to decide for themselves, hey, I want to use TikTok or I want to use this app or that app. Sorry, you can't do that because China might be watching you. But let's not forget about the U.S. watching you. Oh, no. Trump doesn't want to hear that. You might get in trouble if you speak out against the NSA, even though we have the free speech to do so in this country. So, but he might not like it. So what? I don't care what Trump likes. He doesn't care about what I like. So why should I care about what he likes? I don't know him. To me, he's just someone I see on the news. He's a political puppet for the establishment, if you will. So I hope that sinks in and hopefully TikTok will go on to ban. Well, TikTok will go on to, this is what I'm hoping anyways, that TikTok goes on to defend themselves in the U.S. court system and wins.